Hey, I am back as I, promised or threatened you with. We're going to do a run from Exeter St Davids to Plymouth on the high-speed train now. I think I already put on the markers. I forgot this train before, but now we should be good. Yes. To the trains, choose a route, a Riviera Line timetable, and now the high-speed train in the Grey Western green livery. And I want one maybe in the afternoon that takes us from Exeter St Davids to Plymouth, Cardiff Central to Penzance. That's the one. Let's take that one. Let's stay in October. Actually, the trees look nice in the autumn setting. I might want some game audio though. I muted it in between. Now it should be back. 140 yards long we are. Next to the Voyager. What do we need to turn on this train? Here's the master key. Put it into neutral. Guard has to unlock the doors. We don't need to get up to do the safety systems. Interesting. Switch with one switch. Isolated, normal. Isolated, normal. All good. Some lights. Day headlamps and markers. Yeah. Good. Well, we should wash the window a bit, I think. You can see this is a bit of an oldish texture where we have this oscillating in it. Welcome back, Mr. Yours. Jurs, I still don't know how to pronounce your name properly. It looks a bit like Jurs. I hope you're not insulted. Slam door train. It's interesting how they open the window together with the door and then close. Takes a bit for the brakes to release. Spectre, yeah, they should fix the window texture. Also, the lights of old trains sometimes look weird on modern routes, true. And Akura, have you been to Wiesen heute? I have never been to the Wiesen in the whole of my life, even when I was living in Munich for a spell. That is totally not my kind of thing. Good. No, actually, I think we already started too fast, because from this track we probably start with a 15 limit. Anyway. Hummelwiese is the CD radar. No, it was okay. Not at all. But you pronounce with a J, not a Y. Yes. But yes, pronounced with a J, not a Y. I see. Love the rumble of the HST engine. Yeah, it's actually quite nice. Sometime I have to make a stream about this British Rail automatic train protection system. You can see here. With those buttons for brakes, for passing a signal at danger, for shunting, for on. You can also find this installation on the 802 train. Acura. Got my copy of the DLC now. There is still no affiliate, right? No, there is no affiliate. I'm not earning with you guys paying money for DTG, and this is quite okay. So. There is a fantastic rendition of the HST by Armstrong Powerhouse in Train Sim Classic. Unfortunately, Theodoros is not here. He is our Train Sim Classic expert. Inspector is loving the scenery of the route so far, but I have been hit in the face by some trees. Yeah, that's true. Like on Castle Würzburg. That was not nice from DTG, he says. That happens. There are some trees really clipping into your face. So, where do we have to stop at Dawlish? That means we are passing Starcross. We are passing Dawlish Warren. Here's our pond again. The Morpeth board for the 75 does not have a magnet, so it can be missed easily. It's also a bit unusual that we have to slow down after the bend. Whistle for Starcross. Can accelerate to 80, but this is typically not entirely necessary because we have to slow down. At Dawlish Warren, or shortly behind Dawlish Warren. Can't find no system specs in the info. What GPU is in use? If only I could tell you. It is a Ryzen, but I can't give you the specs at the moment. I keep forgetting about things like this. It's about 5 years old, my system, though. So, downhill to Dawlish. So why does the train lean to the right? Spectre is asking. If only I could tell you that. Strange perspective. Yeah, it is leaning a bit to the right, that's true. It will really be interesting if the trains will get a remaster as well when the route remaster for the Great Western Express is out. It's definitely one of the oldest rolling stock that we have in the game. And Joseph still seems to handle trains and world nicely even while streaming. Yeah, well, usually it works quite well. There are some routes where I have trouble, and I have to admit I have some INI tweaks that increase the drawing distance and makes the detail pop in and the shadows a bit smoother. And I run it under DX12 with, oh no, I closed the doors too early. No, worked just like this. And those streaming improvements that a guy called Geloxo posted on the Trains and World forums. I limited my frame rate to 40, and I have a reduced setting for the skies. And he says, I admire how you can run these routes without a track monitor up. I still can't bring myself to do that. Oh yeah. This is something that I got to do quite early on, and since then I would not want to have a track monitor. And I love learning the routes and always try to say, well, now from this station to that station we have a 60 limit, then it increases to whatever, and then it drops exactly. So I was wondering if it is an RTX or a Radeon graphics card. I think it is a Radeon graphics card. Unfortunately, AJ is already asleep. She would know because she actually configured my computer. That's the things that girlfriends do, right? Most likely 2 to the Ryzen CPU. It is so hard to learn the speed limits. At least with German signaling you get a warning. Yeah, that's true. And now I actually slipped a bit beyond the 60. Here the 75 limit, I never really know what's the point in increasing the speed to 75 here. Just for lowering it to 60 again around the next corner. And to be fair, we get Morpeth boards here a lot on this route. And we are supposed to stop at Teignmouth, actually. For some reason, Teignmouth is a station that I miss a lot. Yep. This is how I want to stop the train.
Service to Penzance, calling at Abbot, Totnes, Ivybridge and Plymouth, Devonport, Dockland, Kean, St Udo Ferry Road, Saltash, St Germans, Liscard, Bodmin Parkway, Lost Wydian, Park, St Austell, Truro, Redruth, Campbell, Hale, St Earth, and Penzance.
Yeah, well, I thought you might overshoot, but that was a nice stop. Yeah. Well, I guess most of the time it is like applying the brakes quite hard in the beginning and then release them. What's really difficult to stop, in my opinion, is the manually lapping brakes on the Morristown line. So, Teignmouth to Newton Abbot is 60, then 80, then 90, then back to 60. And platform 2 at Newton Abbot stays at 60. Whereas platform 1, in case we're going to Penzance, drops to 60. To 40. So, shortly after this bend we should get the increase to 80. Almost hidden by scrubs and foliage here. Increase to 80. And now we can actually accelerate through, because we will probably get a 90 before we reach the 80. Here's the 90. I also don't know why the camera is moved like this. What I think you can see is that the shadow on the trees and bushes develops a bit more smoothly than without those innie tweaks. It still kinda pops in, but not as harshly as it does without. So, soon enough we should get a moped for 60. Here's the magnet for it. And the... oops, that was a stutter. And the 60 is around that bend to the left. Here's a TPWS overspeed sensor loop. And here's the 60. Here to the right there should be a horse racing course. That is actually not implemented in the game. Here's the moped for the 40 in case we're switching lines, but we don't do. So the home signal is not approach controlled. It is. The home signal is approach controlled, you say? Or the racing track is implemented. At least we have a yellow here. This one is typically red if you're going left to Penzance. And across this 40 here. Yes, ferroequinology and equinology combined, Spectre. Very true. But we have in the Long Island Railroad this branch to the Belmont racetrack. Oh, it switched to green while I was setting my DRA. So let's look for the racetrack while we have the time. Here. This is actually the racetrack. You can see it. It does not really look like a racetrack, but this is the fence, more or less, where the horses are running around. But this is only rudimentary. On the 802 you can open those flaps here and push the buttons a bit, but I don't think that it does a lot for you. This flap here, ATP data entry, you can open in real life, and then you can punch in the Zugdaten, the train data, just like on the 101 Expert for this British Rail ATP system. Unfortunately, it does not work in the game. Those brakes release so slowly. Totnes. Can't read the driver's instructions on this plate here. So, to Totnes is 60, then it will drop to 55 up the hill. And at Totnes we're typically going into a loop line for the stop, if I remember that correctly, with a 45 limit. setting sun, long shadows, is always hard on the performance. But I really enjoy the landscape. Somehow I have a feeling that in autumn the foliage looks best. Now soonish we should get a moped limiting us, or announcing the limit to 55. And here it is. And this one you have to take seriously because the limit is not far ahead. It's already here. Still working our way up the hill. Usually you know that you're grading when you run into a tunnel. Then you can typically prepare to go downhill on the other end of the tunnel. Here's our rain. So south of Newton Abbot, the distances and running times between stations are so much longer than between Newton Abbot and Exeter. Exeter? Exeter, yes. Another Voyager. single flashing yellow. And also here the flashing animation, we've seen this on the Dutch route already. It's somehow not really perfect. You can only see the halo flashing, but the yellow light as such is still lit. It used to be better in older implementations. Flashing yellow aspect is announcing us that we are diverging from the main line and that there is a speed limit. So the next signal we would expect to be a steady single yellow at the junction signal. Here the limit increases to 60 before we reach Totnes. Over speed sensor loop, here is the magnet for the signal, but it's actually already green. We only have to slow down to 45. If we're entering the loop from this end. Here's our 45. Totnes. Here's the engine house that we saw in the presentation. Listed building nowadays, but never used as an engine house for the atmospheric railway. It looks funny with the umbrellas. To keep our trains to the timetables, we close the doors 30 seconds before the departure time. So please make sure to board the train before this happens. leaving Totnes, we have to stick to a 25 limit at the end of the loop line. And then we're actually going uphill a bit. Let's park the Viper. And here is the end of a speed limit that I totally missed. A temporary speed restriction. What was this? Ah. Interesting. A 20 limit instead of the 25. Where did this sneaked into it? What have the efficiency factor and the machine houses have been back then? 46%. Well, I think this was, you can read it up, this was really a big issue, that they were burning way too much coal to create the vacuum. Inspector says, this route looks so nice and cozy that I hope it may wait around the next corner. Yeah, that's what I said, right? This is the equivalent of comfort food. And maybe more than 33%. At any rate, much too low. So, here's the announcement, opposite direction. What the heck? Hello again, SRTU. To Ivybridge it is now limit of 60 throughout, if I'm not mistaken. So, now in case I missed something on the chat, I just have to restart the Twitch app on my phone. And I'm still reading the chat on my phone. So that my PC does not have to run a second screen. Here finally the tunnel. And now we are running downhill, more or less. Hey, Azari, I don't know about you, but the HST doesn't feel like a late 1970s train. In speed, it might be, but the cab looks as if it was a 1950s and 60s train. Yeah, it really looks old, right? The ICM, the Coploper, is from the same era, but does not feel as old. Well, I don't know, I think it feels quite old, the ICM as well. Well, not as old as this train here, probably. And in real life, the cabs would look even older. Yeah. Yeah, but you're right, it looks more like the interior of a 47. I mean, the EMD F7 has a somewhat similar style, as in all just metal grey. Yeah, but the EMD F7, if you only look at the column in the middle of the cab and those whistle pulls that look like the flushes on some old toilets, that is even older, the F7. And Spectre says, which is strange because from the outside it's a pretty avant-garde. Must have looked like a spacecraft when it was new. Yeah, that's true. From the outside it is definitely 70s. Aqua, Gott schütze uns vor Sturm und Wind und Autos, die aus England sind. But thanks for the railways, he says. Well, that's what people in Germany say, yeah. It's just weird. There was the APT in the same era, but the UK did a UK and delivered this thing instead. Inspector, I would not mind a McLaren though, yeah, or an Aston Martin. Some people even like the old Rolls Royce. Willow RP. HST started in service in 1976 on Great Western. And the outside design definitely tells you that. The interior, it's kinda oldish even for 1976. So, let's not miss the stop at Ivybridge. The clay place. How can one and the same country make a Bentley Continental and what a Reliant Robin? I can't answer this question. ASR to you. It just feels like the UK can't do railway anymore. They can't even build a high-speed line on their own. Well, there has a prototype in the early 70s, so an early 70s design, yep. Reliant Robin is the three-wheeler that likes to flip over. Okay, guys. And Willer, I'm British and we can't do very much these days. Well, as it seems I can't stop this train because I'm reading the chat too much. Almost ran the stop at Ivybridge and now I am 12 yards late. That just works like this. Is RTU the one with Jeremy Clarkson going sideways? Alright, now for the speed profile, more interesting part. To Plymouth, starting at 60, while it will increase to 60, to 80, in a quite steep descent. Then we have to slow down to 60 again. Can accelerate to 70 and then we are going into the slowdown for Plymouth. Most of it will be announced by Moped Boards. The sun is past or behind the horizon, so no more long shadows. And the Reliant Robin. Another thing that I have to look up. Camera 2 was caught somehow. This is why it was bobbing around all the time. Another nice viaduct. So, sun is back. So we should get closer to the 80 limit in the descent. If I did not miss it with my external shots. Yep, that's always nice if the trains are passing and there are no stutters. Yeah, at the end of this crossover, I think we should get the 80. And here we go. And then you always want to accelerate. And you run into the gradient and it is almost accelerating on its own. Look at that speed profile here. Whoosh. And the gradient profile. This is a hefty gradient. Also, isn't this a main line? Or, you asked, what qualifies a main line for being a main line? It should be a main line because it connects London, Paddington and Penzance, so it's getting to be the what's it called? The Cornwall main line or something. I mean, it should be, but why no electrification? Well, I guess this is always the same thing. If there is no electrification, and most importantly, because it is expensive electrifying lines. Sometimes it is a problem with the tunnels. Or some other things that are there. That, yeah, well. We should have to ask the Department of Transportation, probably. Or the starting group for the Great British Railways. '60 is after the switch. Just looked at open railways. Is that... or open railway maps? Everything west of Weymouth is unelectrified. Yo. In the radar high, I saw that they call Libres Stara Parka a main line. Okay. A double yellow. Still allowing us to accelerate to 70. Single yellow, then we actually have to slow down a bit. Now we have our rain back. Here's the Laira Depot. Or what's it called? Laira. Or Laira. Maybe. So do we have to stop actually before we can enter Plymouth? We are the high-speed train, my friend. Can't have us sitting at the door. I don't think this is approach controlled here. Because it is not a junction signal, right? Typically only junction signals are approach controlled and held at red. We will see if there is a red light bug. We are actually quite early, so there is some chance that this can resolve itself. And I can read the chat at this point. By the way, I love the destinations for freight trains in the Leipzig-Dresden route. Yeah, I saw that too. I actually thought there are some... And it cleared. Not even done reading the chat. I actually saw some trains bound to Prague. Exactly. Well, basically apart from London area in and around the West Coast Main Line and East Coast Main Line and the Southwest, there's barely any lines electrified outside of those. Yeah, there are some, I guess. By the way, where is the wiper control? Can we not increase the wiper speed? We can. So I guess we're in the 60 limit zone. Even the drop to 55. Now here's the 60. Even the drop to 55 should be announced by a moped board. Here it is. And here's the moped board for the 25. That is valid at the end of the tunnel. Here will be the 55. Here's the corner or the bend. And after this bend there is the tunnel, and after the tunnel there is the home signal, and at the home signal is the drop, the 25. We're going into Plymouth, and then it depends to what track we are routed. We're supposed to go to 4 according to our timetable. And I think if we are going to 4, there is no more additional limit. Or we can roll in with the 25. Yes, signal routes us to 4. Theater indicator tells us to go to 4. In some scenarios you are supposed to go to the right here, and you would have to adhere to the 15. Go to platform 7 or something. Or we are going more to the left to platform 4. We're going to 1, 2, 3. We had the 20 limit. But since we are supposed to go on to Penzance, we can stop here at platform 4. So the rain has us in its grip. This is always spooky if you're used that the signals are on the right side of your track. But actually we can go on because our signal is not the one in the gantry, but the one at the end of the platform. We have to stop at this marker with the many signs on it. And here we are. Almost on the dot. The weather changed quickly, yes. But the rain came to stay. Where did we end up here? In the gantry. That's it, guys. So, what did I do wrong? Here I actually violated the 55. Here I did not see the temporary speed restriction. And here I accelerated too early, actually. I wasn't through with my train. Anyway, was a nice run. Thank you so much for accompanying me on this trip on the HST high-speed train from Exeter St Davids to Plymouth. In this really, really beautiful masterpiece of a route, the Riviera Line. It is always soothing and calming to drive. Enjoy and see you next time. Have the greatest of weeks. Bye bye.